Hello, everyone. So we're just going to give it a couple minutes, maybe 1 to 2 minutes, just as we're noticing people are coming in, and then we'll get started with the webinar. We'll give it 1 more minute, and then we'll start. Okay. So hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Legal Advocacy webinar. My name is Erica Alonso, and I work in the legal department as a legal coordinator here at Laura's House, and I'm really excited to be hosting this session today. Before we get started, I would like to share with you some information about our legal department. For several years now, we have been providing legal advocacy to survivors of domestic violence. Our advocates do not provide any legal advice or provide any type of representation. But what we do is support individuals by providing education on their legal rights and helping filing restraining orders, providing hearing preparation, court accompaniment for restraining order cases, along with other advocacy services. Our main goal within our department is for no one to ever be alone during the restraining order hearing and empower our clients to make their own decision. Last year, we helped 1,187 individuals with legal services, and we continue to provide this type of services during the COVID-19 pandemic. I am pleased to introduce you to today's speaker, Leah Chacon. Leah is one of our legal advocates. Today, she'll be sharing information how social isolation is affecting those who are already experiencing violence during COVID-19, current barriers for victims and survivors, and current statistics received from our hotline call center. Followed by Leah, we have Rocio Telumbre. She is our legal advocate. She'll be sharing the importance of safety planning and what is occurring in Orange County Superior Courts in regards to restraining order and enforcement. I will then be sharing how we are supporting the community during this pandemic by using telehealth as a form of communication, and also talking about what is a restraining order. And last, we're going to end it with Karina Padilla, our newest legal advocate. She'll be asking our panelists questions that we have received from our audience and most common questions that we get asked by our clients. But before we get started, I have a few housekeeping items to cover about this presentation. First, our webinar will be available after the session. We would love to hear from you during the webinar, so please write your questions on the chat box, and we'll be answering questions at the end of the session. And without further ado, I would like to welcome you, our legal advocate, Leah. And Leah, whenever you're ready, I'm going to send it over to you.
Thank you, Erica. Hi, everyone. My name is Leah Chacon, and I'm one of the legal advocates at Laura's House. And today I'm going to cover statistics and how domestic violence, statistics pertaining to domestic violence right now through this pandemic. And those statistics are going to be, they're going to include numbers around the world, our nation, and our hotline. So during my research, I found the following. The New York Times has reported that in Spain, the emergency number of domestic violence has received an 18% increase in calls in the first 2 weeks of the lockdown. Further, French police reported a spike of 30% of domestic violence calls nationwide. In addition, I also found an interesting article that talked about how pharmacies in France have set a code word where people can walk into a pharmacy if they're a victim of domestic violence and they need help. they can go into the pharmacy and say this code word, and the pharmacy will provide assistance. Further, an NPR article also reported that in South Africa, authorities said that there's nearly 90,000 reports of violence against women in the first week of the lockdown. This article also stated that in China, the number of domestic violence calls tripled during their lockdown, and this was a report from the United Nations. An interesting report that I found also was from Google, that they reported a 75% increase in online searches for help with domestic violence. Further, in Turkey, activists have said that there's been an increase of women, of killing of women during their stay-at-home order. CNN Health reported that in New York, there's been an increase of domestic violence incidents by 10% compared to this time last year. NBC Boston reported that 18 different police departments have stated that they've seen an increase in March. For example, the Houston Police Department saw a 20% increase in domestic violence calls in March. The Phoenix Police Department saw a 6% increase in March. Now, with this shows that there's been a rise in domestic violence calls, not only in our nation, but worldwide. And we have experienced that in our hotline too. We pulled up some numbers, and in March, there was an increase of calls to our hotline by 3% from February. And for legal calls, for legal assistance, there was a 42% increase in March from the month of February. And with that said, I do want to thank our hotline staff, because right now they're really their main point of contact with our new clients and with the community. And we can't stress enough that if any of our viewers know of somebody, or if you are experiencing domestic violence, to please reach out to our hotline and reach out. It's open 24 hours a day. If it's an emergency, call 911. But if you need resources, if you need services, please reach out to our hotline. Our staff there will take down information depending on what you need, and then they will send the referral out to the other departments. And right now, I'm sure my other colleagues on this call can say that we're very proud of our team at Laura's House, because as a whole, we found very unique ways of how to continue to provide services to our clients. And we did a shift where right now our main offices are not open, but we are still continuing to provide the same services. And with that, we have encountered some barriers, especially with our newer clients, where before clients were able to call and make an appointment at our offices and meet with us, where they can have a safe place to talk about their abuse, and we can also safety plan with clients and provide our services. Now we've had to do this over the phone. And I think all of us can say, not only in the legal department, but with our therapists and with our hotline staff, we've just had to find very creative ways of how to have these calls with our clients where it's safe for them. Because where before they can go out to a park, or maybe to the mall, or to a friend's house, or to a family member's house to have these calls, now they can't do that, because now they're in home, parks are closed, the beaches are closed, some of the stores are closed. So I can personally say that with some of my clients, if they're still living with their abuser, we've had to cut our calls in sections. I've had clients that the only time to talk to them when it's safe is at night, or while they're walking their dog, or when their abuser is asleep. So we really are trying to find creative ways to again, continue to provide our services. And I'm sure our other colleagues will, my other colleagues will share their experience with how they have, the barriers that they've encountered with giving services with the clients. I think, and Rocio will talk about this a little bit more, but also just the changes with the courthouse. There's been a lot of changes within the past 3 weeks, and the best thing we can do is provide information for our clients, safety plan with them, and provide them resources through this time. And with that said, Rocio will continue to provide information.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Rocio. I'm also one of the legal advocates here at Laura's House. So there's a couple things that I want to go over. So more importantly is what is going on right now with the courts. A lot of the times individuals seek out the court because there's that option of getting some type of protection for themselves against against the other party. So what is happening now? So as of March 17th, the Orange County Superior Court has decided to go ahead and close all courthouses in Orange County as of the 17th, and right now they're indicating that they're going to potentially open up the courthouse April 24th, but again, that is still a tentative date. Things may change, so we're still waiting on any future information about that, but as of right now, that's what they're providing. So in terms of the courthouse itself, so the courthouse is closed to the general public, but it's not closed for court employees. So they are still working behind the scenes. It's just we're not able to go ahead and enter the courthouse in case somebody's interested in filing for a new restraining order. They can't actually enter the courthouse. So some of the things that have changed. So if an individual had a pending family law order, so a child custody case, a divorce case, something like that, where they had a hearing date during the duration of the court closure, what the court is now doing is they're actually just continuing out the date to a new date past a certain amount of time. So if you have a date, an upcoming court hearing date, it's going to get pushed automatically. And what they're going to be doing is they're either going to be mailing or emailing you that information. So if for whatever reason you forgot what address you put on your court documents, or if you're not sure if they have the correct information, or you haven't received anything from the court, it's best that you actually call the courthouse. Again, the courthouse is not closed to employees, so they are still working. So there's a couple options that you are actually able to do. So if you need to reach somebody in the courthouse, you can either find the courthouse phone number, so the actual courtroom. If you go to OC Courts and you look up on their general information, there's an option where it says judicial officers, and you can actually find their the phone number for that particular courtroom. If you don't have access to the internet, or you just don't know how to work the OC Court information or the website, you can just call their self-help number. Their phone number will be 657-622-6630, and then we're going to go ahead and write it on the chat. You can call them Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So you can speak with somebody in case you have any questions about your case, or you want to make sure that your address is updated. That could be the phone number that you can go ahead and seek assistance. Or they also have provided an email address that you can also use to get a contact of a court clerk. So again, that email address will be ljcshc@occourts.org. So again, we're going to go ahead and provide that information on the chat center or the chat option, so you can go ahead and have that information as well. So that would be just the general information. But in terms of the domestic violence restraining order hearing, so in terms of that, again, because the courthouse is closed, judges are not listening to cases. From what we know, any domestic violence restraining order hearing, the hearings are going to now get pushed past June 1st. So any individual that had a pending hearing date for the restraining order are going to get their cases automatically continued. So they're going to be receiving something in the mail with a new issuance date. So a couple things are going to happen there. if you have a current valid temporary restraining order, meaning that the judge granted your initial request, that restraining order issuance is only going to be a 25-day period. So oftentimes, and that this is what we're seeing with some of our clients, is that their next court hearing date may be April 27th or May 7th. But again, the judges are not going to be hearing those cases until past June 1st. So there is that option where you're going to get your case continued a second time around past that June 1st date. So again, it's important for the courthouse to have an updated address so they're able to send you that information. Because again, if you have not been able to serve the restraining party, the protected party needs to still serve those documents over to them. And then I'll go over those options in a little bit. But again, you still need to have that information available. And even though it gets continued, if you have a valid temporary restraining order, again, it was granted to you, you still are going to be protected until the next court hearing date. So it doesn't mean that it's going to get dismissed. It's just getting pushed out a little bit more because of the court closure. If your original request was denied, what we're also seeing is because there's no current temporary orders, some cases are actually getting pushed out already past June 1st. There's some cases that have already getting pushed to the end of June, the beginning of June. So because again, there's no active temporary restraining order, the judges are able to continue those cases out a bit longer. So it's just up to the individual to make sure that they're aware of what's happening at the court. So if you haven't received any information, if you haven't received anything in the mail, it's best for you to possibly just call the courthouse to get that information updated. I know that with everything going on, the last thing that we want to think about is, does the courthouse have an updated address? So just take a look at your documents to see what is it that you have. If you have any questions, any concerns, again, you can call our hotline and we're going to go ahead and provide that at the end in case you kind of need assistance kind of figuring that process out too. And then something else that I mentioned as well. So if you still need to go ahead and serve the other party with the temporary restraining order issuance date, the original request, the Orange County Sheriff's Department is still processing and assisting in serving the other party with the restraining order document. So you're not able to go into their offices, but you still have the option of mailing out those documents over to them. So something to keep in mind is that it takes a while for it to get mailed unless you do overnight, and then the court does give you an amount of time for you to serve the other party with the restraining order document. So you want to make sure that you keep track of your timeline in case, do I have time for me to send over the documents to the Sheriff's Department? Is the Sheriff's Department going to be able to attempt service in the time frame that the court has given me? So you want to make sure that you keep track of those timelines. And again, it's definitely a lot of information for you to keep track of. So if you have any questions, any concerns, anything relating to that, we can assist you kind of plan out your timeline. If it's best for you to just maybe wait until the next continuance date, or if you can overnight it and then the Sheriff's Department can go ahead and assist you. There's definitely options, or just having somebody else that you know attempt service, but with the 6 feet apart, you also kind of want to keep that into consideration as well. I'm going to go ahead and provide the sheriff information in terms of like if you want to give them a call to get more information in terms of like how can you serve the other party with the restraining order paperwork, what's the process, do I need to go ahead and submit more paperwork attached to my initial request. So I'm going to go ahead and provide 2 phone numbers. There's a Sheriff's Department for the North City office, the North Cities. So that could be Santa Ana, Garden Grove, Tustin, anything above like Costa Mesa, Tustin would be considered for their Santa Ana office. If you live like Irvine further south, those would be the Newport Beach office. So depending on where you where the restraining party lives, that's the office that you're going to be sending the restraining order paperwork to. So we'll go ahead and provide both phone numbers so you can go ahead and call the appropriate office. Let me go ahead and write it on here. There we go. But yeah, so then that's what's going on. But in terms of the courthouse, so it is a little bit challenging to file for a restraining order, and Erica's definitely going to go over that in detail. But say, for example, there's an incident that happened at the home and there is some type of danger, your local police department is able to still go to the home. So as long as you call 911, the police department is still going to be able to go into the home. I'm sure they're going to have new procedures with everything going on right now. But if you still feel some type of danger, you are able to request that police officer to provide you an emergency protective order. The emergency protective order is usually only valid for about 5 to 7 days. But with the pandemic, the California Judicial Council has decided that they're not going to extend this emergency protective order for up to 30 days protection. So what does this mean exactly? So if a police officer gives you an emergency protective order, it's providing you some type of protection. It's telling you, we just got a question, and yes, we're only providing it to the panelists, not to everybody. So we're gonna go ahead and change that. So what'll happen is your local police officer can go ahead and provide you an emergency protective order. And so what that means is they can, that emergency protective order can provide you protection from the other party. They cannot come close to you. They cannot come to your house. They cannot contact you directly. So it gives you some type of protection that the individual also needs to be removed from the home for those 30 days. So it gives you some type of protection, but again, it doesn't give you the protection of a temporary restraining order that Erica's gonna go ahead and go into, but at least knowing that you're still able to call your local police department to get that type of protection is helpful as well. So what you wanna do is just go ahead and keep that in mind. And say, for example, the police officer that you spoke with hasn't brought that up, again, you're able to request it yourself. The police officer does not have to be like, oh, I'm gonna give you this automatically. If you feel that you need to be protected, then go ahead and request that emergency protective order, and that restrained party is gonna also be served with those documents. So if they give you that emergency protective order and it says that they need to be removed from the home, that other individual cannot stay at the home and must leave for that extended time period. Because if they were to violate it at one point, there may be some serious issues that can come about that as well. So just kind of keeping that in mind, that even though we're constrained to just being home, know that there still is protection out there, and individuals can still file their own restraining order. And again, Erica's going to go ahead into detail with that too. But that's essentially what's happening with the court. But what I want to also focus on is talking about some safety planning. So we understand that we're constrained to our homes most of the time. And even myself, I know it's kind of hard figuring out, okay, well, I can't really leave. And if I do leave, I'm still able to leave, but you want to make sure that you keep a distance from other individuals walking by you. We can't really go to the park. So it's really important for us to know some tips about safety planning in case there is some domestic violence happening at the home. At least you know some of the things that you can do. So some of the things that we have seen in terms of safety planning or what's going on is if there's some domestic violence happening at the home, especially right now, a lot of people can feel that they're isolated, meaning that the other party, or in other words, the abuser, is actually making things harder where they're not able to go ahead and contact family members and not allowing to contact friends. So this is making things a little bit worse in the sense that they can't contact family members, so they are making things, they make feel more isolated. But also they may restrict some type of access to information. So if they're not allowing you to go on social media to get information about what's going on with the pandemic, what are some things that you can protect yourself? Or they're not letting you watch TV, that's restricting information from you, and really the only source of information is through them. And who knows what type of information that they're actually going to be providing. But also digital stalking. So again, like I mentioned, they are going to want to make sure what you're doing on social media, what searches you're looking online. So they're going to want to make sure that they're looking at all the things that you're doing, who are you calling, things like that. So there are things that you can do to kind of minimize those situations. So for example, it's always best to have people that you know and that you trust have some type of code word. So for example, if you live in a neighborhood or if you live in apartments, have a trusted neighbor that you're able to go to in case you don't have access to a phone, that you can potentially, if you need to exit your home and you need to go ahead and knock on that neighbor, go ahead and have a code word. So instead of using help, I'm getting hurt, you can go ahead and say, for example, oh, I'm here because I want banana pudding. So it's kind of changing your verbiage. So in case your abuser or your significant other, you feel threatened, you have that code word with that just individual person. But also have it with another trusted family member or friend that you can also communicate with. So if there's issues going on at the home and you need to go ahead and send information over to them. So maybe that trusted friend you can send them your personal information, a picture of your birth certificate, a picture of some identification information that you need to have available in case you need to exit your home. Have that trusted friend, or if you need to take notes of some incidents that have happened at the home and you're not able to call anybody, but you're able to send that information over to them, have a trusted individual. And again, having those code words with them so they know that in case you need help, they know exactly what you mean when you're telling them like, hey, can you bring banana pudding? Something like that, that they'll kind of know about that too. Another thing is finding a safe room or a safe location at your house. So if there's an issue going on at the home where you need to maybe move, finding a room that you feel that may have less weapons. And by weapon, I don't mean a gun. It could be a knife. It can be, is there a game room when maybe there's a bat in there? So you want to kind of look at those locations where it's safer for you in a way. So maybe in your living room where there's more space for you to be at, and there's possibly more exit doors. Is there a window on the first floor that you can easily exit from in case you need to go ahead and just leave? Where is the closest door that you have? So making sure that you know your space, or even so, if there's any minor children, is there a safe space for them to go in case you don't want them to be, if there's a verbal argument happening, maybe you don't want them to be in that situation. You kind of want to think about those things too. So you not only try to, if you're not able to protect everybody, you can at least kind of minimize the situation about what the kids see as well. And then if for whatever reason you need to leave the home, have like a bag, like a backpack with some essentials. So again, if there's minor children at the home, maybe having some of their personal belongings on there, a change of clothes. Do you have their birth certificates on there, their social security, your personal social security? Is there some helpful information on there that may be useful for yourself? So do you have a place to go? So is there a family member or friend, somebody who trusts that you're able to go to? Because unfortunately, not everybody has that. So maybe having phone numbers for shelters that if you need to leave the home, that you can call and see if they have availability in there, if they're able to take you in. In Orange County, you can call 211. It's a free number that you can call, and then they can go ahead and provide you information in terms of like shelters that are available in the area. They can connect you with other shelters. That way you at least have options as well. The other thing is finding a peaceful space in your home. So it's very difficult, especially if you have limited space in your home. Is there a time of day that you and if you have children, is there a time where you can just do some coloring or something like that? Or maybe is there time when the other party's not at the home that you can just keep to yourself? Because with everything going on, just personally speaking, anxiety may come up. You may have, you may be nervous about something. So you also want to kind of keep yourself motivated in that way, where you keep yourself, your mind going. So maybe coloring, doing a crossword puzzle, something that will allow for you to keep your mind off things. Because again, it's important for you to also find support. It's hard when the other party's trying to keep you isolated from family members, relatives, things like that. So what you want to do is, if you can, continue to call your family, continue to call your friends, continue to keep that community contact, because it's what's going to keep you going. If you communicate with your family in terms of what's going on, your friend knows exactly what's going on, it's best for you to kind of maintain that contact, but in a safe way. So if you feel that maybe it's not safe to communicate with somebody, maybe finding other ways. So again, with social media, a lot of the times, when we think about social media, we don't think about passwords. We don't think about the security question. So again, keeping those things in mind, because when was the last time that we changed that information? I know for security questions, one of them is, well, what was your first pet? If I had a significant other, a lot of the times they're gonna know that name, so they already have a question down. What was your mom's maiden name? That's a common security question that is asked. More than likely, they're gonna know that answer as well. So also making sure that you update that information. So in terms of saying, oh, what's your favorite food? You can say, my favorite food are burgers. You can keep that as a sentence. So I like burgers instead of just putting burgers, because that will still give you the answer, but it's not providing more security into the answer that you're providing. So kind of keeping those things in mind, because for you to avoid, if you're trying to kind of maintain that contact, keeping those things updated so the other party doesn't have access to that information. And then just making sure that all your other passwords for maybe your bank, your PIN, things like that, that you update them, because again, if your PIN number is your birthday, so if my birthday is May 5th and I put 0504, more than likely the other parties may also kind of think that that's going to be the PIN you're going to be using. So kind of keeping those things in mind and always have that plan available. There's some great websites online that can help you set up those safety planning tips, or if you just want to create your own. So again, some of the important things is what are some of the essentials that you need to take if you have to leave? If you need to stay at the home, where are the safe locations that you can be at that will kind of minimize what's going to happen? And lastly is keeping contact with the outside world. It's important just to make sure that you have contact with other people, that you know exactly that you feel that there's other people who are supporting you and empowering you to continue going on, but also that there are organizations that are available to help you, and we're all here for you as well. Erica's definitely going to go into detail about what services that we're still able to continue to provide, and hopefully that will help you get some more information about anything else that we may be able to assist you with. And if anybody has any other questions regarding some safety planning tips, please let us know on the chat, and then we can kind of talk about it at the end if we have any questions. But that's for me. So Erica, if you want to take over.
Yeah, so thank you, Rocio. I think your information was definitely really important as to how can individuals do a safety planning at home, which is really important for the population we work with, and also what's happening in Orange County regarding restraining orders and enforcing them. So thank you for sharing that information. And as Rocio mentioned in her, as Rocio mentioned, the Orange County family courts continue to accept restraining orders. Although they're still closed, that doesn't mean that they're not taking any requests. And one of the requests they can do is submitting domestic violence restraining order and emergency child custody order. If it's anything else, for example, divorce, child custody, they're not allowing that. They're just taking those that need some type of protection. So this type of protection, they can file them electronically through the e-filing system. Even though, again, the court is closed, many individuals are aware of this, and they may feel helpless, which also creates another barrier when they try to leave an abusive relationship. This new transition of filing online has definitely been difficult for everyone, including the court. Filing for domestic violence restraining order electronically has never been an option for litigants, which also means that there's no instructions, there's no guide as to how to submit this request. So this is new for us. This is new for us, and it's new for everybody. So you can just imagine how a person might feel if they need this type of protection and they're unaware of how to submit this request. Can be really challenging. So what we've been doing during the past 2 weeks, our team has been working together, has contacted the court to ask for help, asking questions. So for us advocates, we can understand the e-filing system. In order for us to continue providing services to clients by filing their requests electronically. So filing a restraining order electronically can be challenging. It's already challenging filing a restraining order in person. So there's more barriers. How do you submit this? It's really confusing. One person might give you a different information. Another person might give you another one, which is really hard And we completely understand that it's okay to be feeling frustrated because this is new. This is new for everybody, and things seems to be changing day by day. So it's kind of hard to keep up with current information. But it seems now we're going into 3 weeks of working remotely, same as the course, so they have a better understanding and more consistent. So before we get we talk about like what we do, how we can support our clients through the legal needs, let's talk about what is a restraining order and what can it do? How can you qualify for this protection order? So a domestic violence restraining order through the family court is an order that helps individuals who have been abused or threatened to be abused. There has to be a type of relationship with the other person so you qualify for this order. For example, if you're married, you used to date or are dating, have a child in common, related by blood, divorce, or you used to live together, you may qualify for this type of protection. If you qualify for a domestic violence restraining order through the family court, the court can grant the restraining party to not engage in any type of abuse, for them not to harass, attack, strike, threaten, keep you under surveillance, destroy your personal property, impersonate you electronically. So they're not allowed to do that. A move-out order, asking the person to leave from the home so you're in a safe place. Stay away orders, staying 100 yards from you, your home, your job, your vehicle. 100 yards is equivalent the size of a football field. So if you see him or you see her, they're definitely not within that 100 yards. No contact order, for them not to contact you through email, any electronic means, text message, phone, mail. For them not to have any firearms. We know that it's important for safety, you know, especially if the other person has a firearm. The person who's filing this request might be concerned that they might feel unsafe, especially if there has been threats of harm and using that firearm. So they're not allowed to have any firearms or ammunition. And they can also request other things, child custody and property control, care of animals. So how we consider this restraining order is as a means of divorce, just because it does include several things that emergency protective order might not include. The emergency protective order might just include that they are, the person who was abused is protected for, you know, depending the days of that was issued, more likely 30 days, as law enforcement are extending that protection order, which usually before it was 5 to 7 days. It might just protect the person. So this type of restraining order is definitely protects an individual, and they can request additional items. For example, like I mentioned, move-out order, child custody with no visitation, stay-away orders. So it definitely elaborates and protects an individual a little bit more. To file this request electronically, in Orange County, you need to file using the occourts.org website and selecting File at Home. So File at Home is an interview system, which means that the person will be asked questions. As you answer those questions, it will create your documents for you. This is the simple version of filing for litigants who, you know, sometimes they're not aware that we're here to support, but this is an option for them to go on OC Courts and selecting that specific option, File at Home, which will just guide them. It does take, you know, it does take some time, especially like an hour, just because there's a lot of documents, there's a lot of questions. So that's what a restraining order would protect a person. We understand that this may be confusing and difficult process, and we are here to support anyone with their legal needs, especially if they need help filing a restraining order electronically. We also are aware that not everybody needs a restraining order. They might need support with other legal services, for example, divorce, immigration, child custody, which we have amazing partnership with other agencies that we can refer over cases that we're unable to support. So our main scope of work is restraining order. And like I mentioned, we're not attorneys. We don't provide any type of legal advice, but we do have amazing partnership with other agencies that we can refer over cases that we're unable to help. And some of the example that I gave was like divorce and immigration or child custody. Besides restraining order, we also help with CalVCB application, which is a restitution program that we can submit for our clients. Safe at home application, if the person, the client that we're working with wants their address to be confidential and the abuser are not aware of their address, we can submit that application, which it's a great resource, a a great program for victims of domestic violence, human trafficking, and sexual assault person, along with safety planning. And we have noticed definitely safety planning has been one that we've been doing most often right now during the pandemic. Our team is working remotely and providing services via telehealth. And we, like Leah mentioned, we are finding some barriers. So one of the barriers is being, some of the barriers that the clients are having is they might have challenging time speaking over the phone. And the only safe time to do so is while they take a walk, a 15-minute walk. So being flexible and knowing, using a different approach while working with individuals right now and safety planning with them. They might not be ready to leave an abusive relationship, especially with everything that's going on. They might be overwhelmed, they might be stressed, and they don't feel safe. So we're noticing that we're doing safety planning and being flexible as to what's the best time that we can contact them. Is it later at night? Is it really early? Is it during the day? So splitting that appointment for a longer period of time, on different days is how we're working with clients. So we're able to recognize those needs and apply it and learn from that. And also being able to just be flexible with their client, which we've been noticing. And all the services that I mentioned, filing restraining order, referring cases over, and other applications that we can submit, we're still continue to do so. Agencies who we submit the request over, they still continue to help. They are using a different approach. They're working remotely, and which is, they're still available. We're still available to help. So if you need assistance, or someone that needs legal services, please ask them to call our hotline and mention that you're interested in legal services, and then they will be referring your information to our department. One of the advocates will then contact the person within 2 business days and provide the support they need. Our services are completely free. They're confidential and voluntarily. Rocio mentioned, I'm not so sure, but we have 2 offices in Orange County, one of them in Ladera Ranch and in Garden Grove. Both offices are closed. We don't have a date that we might go back. So calling the office, calling that number is definitely not the best right now. We strongly emphasize for individuals to contact our hotline, since we will be contacting you as soon as possible. And then we will be adding the hotline number on the chat box, but this is the number. And I know we have some Facebook audience. So it's 866-498-1511. So we're still available. We're still providing support. We don't want you to be alone in this process. It's really challenging, especially if you want to file for a restraining order. We're here as a team. This is the type of work we do. We advocate for clients. We call the court. So we're always calling. If we don't have the questions to your answer, we try to get them and obtain them by contacting the person that we need to contact. If you need help filing, asking the sheriff department to serve your restraining order, we'll contact them and see what's the best option. Are they allowing you to go and drop your request in person? Are they asking you to fax it over, mail it over? So there's several challenging and a lot of the unknown that we try to obtain that information, because we understand that this is difficult. It's difficult already if you're in an abusive relationship, and overwhelming. So we want to make this as easy as we can by providing the support, and just know that we're here. You're not alone, and you don't deserve to be treated in any way that you're being treated. And so we're here for support. So now I know there was a couple questions that were most common questions that we received. So Karina will be asking our advocates some questions and answering some of the things that were sent during the chat box. So Karina, whenever you're ready, I'll send it over to you.
Thank you, Erica. I definitely want to give you all a chance to ask questions. So you can do so by entering them in the chat box. I do see a question in the chat box, and I will hand over this question to anybody that wants to answer it. So the first question is, when would we be able to file for divorce if we cannot do that at this time? Has the court shared this information with the public? She also shared an example, which I'm going to read. So she said, for example, right now, I do not need a restraining order. I do not work at all, and I am in school as a grad student. I have 3 daughters, and my husband was my only source of income. We have decided that we will move forward with the separation, but he has given me 60 days to move out, and I have nowhere to go. I know this may get ugly, and I was hoping to be provided more time to find a job. With the current COVID-19 situation, not only is it impossible to find a job, but it'll be difficult to get money and my credit up in 2 months. So anybody that wants to answer this question?
So that's a really good question. So in terms of the courthouse and any filings, so from what we know, they are not accepting any divorce filings until they resume office regular court hours. So more than likely, you're not able to actually file for divorce until they really open up past June. But if there's any emergency hearing that you need to happen, so say for example, you need to file for emergency custody hearings and emergency child support hearing, so they are still accepting those. What you would need to do is you still got to call the self-help number so you can kind of get more information in terms of what that looks like. But also, you are able to call our hotline number so we can assist you with that information and possibly refer you over to another agency that may be able to provide you legal advice. I think right now, from just what you provided in terms of your example, I think that there's a lot going on. You're a grad student, you're possibly going to be going through a divorce, you have children, so there's definitely a lot. So you also want to think about yourself too. Don't feel so overwhelmed with it. Again, a great resource as well is calling that 211 number, or just again calling our hotline number, because if you feel that maybe you're not going to be able to find job assistance, or you're not going to be able to find housing, we may be able to provide you some resources in terms of like, is there some emergency shelters, is there some emergency housing that we may be able to provide you to, or provide you information about, because again, it's about kind of empowering you and figuring out and taking everything one step at a time. It's not about making sure that you have everything all at once, because I understand right now it's difficult to even just go get groceries. So just taking everything one step at a time. So figuring out what's going to be my housing situation, what phone numbers do I have, or what resources can I possibly get to kind of get myself to step 2. Okay, well, who can I contact to kind of get more information about what my legal rights are in terms of this divorce that's possibly going to be coming up? What are my rights in terms of custody? What are my rights about anything else that you feel that you may have questions about? We can definitely talk about what the divorce process is, but unfortunately as legal advocates, we're not attorneys, so we can't provide you any type of legal advice. So that's going to be the difficult part, but know that we are here to help. So if you want to go ahead and reach out to us and kind of talk to one of us, we'd be more than happy to kind of provide you that initial information too. I don't know if there's anything else that that any one of you guys want to add to that too.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit to that. Even though right now the court may not be accepting filings outside of restraining order and orders and other emergency orders, it's still a good time to, like Rocio said, to reach out either to our agency or to other agencies that are open and are providing services, so you can start planning. So as soon as the court is open to the public, you can start taking those steps. So that's really what I've been covering with some of our clients that need services outside the restraining order. Just providing those resources to them so they can start connecting to the proper the proper resource if they need to speak to an attorney, or if they need housing, just so they can start planning now. So as soon as the courthouse is open, or as soon as these other agencies are open, they can have that plan set in place.
Thank you. So I will now go and ask questions that are commonly asked by clients. The first question I'm going to go ahead and ask Rocio. If I file a domestic violence restraining order, is personal service still required?
Yes, so personal service is still required with the documentation. So in terms of your original request, that's still you still need to go ahead and serve the other party with those documents. And if there's if you haven't been able to serve the other party and you get a new issuance date, So for example, your case got continued, you still have to serve all those documents to the other party in order for the case to move forward. Again, you can ask the Sheriff's Department to attempt service. You can have anybody over the age of 18 that's not on the restraining order attempt service, or have a private investigator, or in other words, a process server, go ahead and attempt service. But again, it's keeping distance. If you are going to have a relative, a family, friend, somebody that's going to go ahead and attempt service, so kind of keep that 6 feet distance to make sure that they're still keeping in line with what the state allows as well too.
Thank you, Rocio. The next question I'll be asking Leah. Is the Orange County Sheriff's Department assisting with serving the other party with restraining order documents?
Yes, they are. And I think Rocio covered this earlier, but they are. It depends. We always like to do a screen of where that service needs to be done in Orange County. So if the respondent or the other party lives in a city in North Orange County, they can call the Civil Process Office. The Sheriff's Department will, they can call in, and the Sheriff's Department can let them know if they can submit their requests either fax or if they can mail it in. It really depends. We always like to assess because with some orders they may have 5 days before the hearing to serve, or 15 days. So we like to do a little assessment. Anyway, so and I'll just repeat the number. If service needs to happen in a city in North Orange County, they can call 714-569-3700. If service needs to happen in a city in South Orange County, you can call 949-476-4820. And again, they'll instruct the caller of how the best way of getting that request into their office, and then they can, once that request is submitted, the caller can call to follow up to see if it's been served or not, or if they've gone out 1 time or 3 times already. Depending on if they're successful or not, they'll send the requesting party a letter stating whether they were successful or not. If they were, they will submit a proof of service to the courthouse.
Thank you, Leah. The next question will be for Erica. So it's, how can a restraining order protect me during COVID-19 if I live with my abuser?
Yeah, so there's different types of restraining orders that can protect them. If they need an emergency protective order, an incident happens and they need some type of protection immediately, they could contact law enforcement. They can issue them an emergency protective order that will protect them. During that protection order, there is a section that they're asking the other party to leave, so they're not together, especially for their safety. So that's one option that Rocio did mention, that they're extending it for a longer period of time, for 30 days. However, if the person wants to file for a different type of restraining order, for example, through family court, which is the one that I was mentioning, they can definitely do so and file the request, which gives them more options. They can ask for not only the person to be protected, but also additional family members, a move-out order. So that would be some type of resources for them to get protected during this COVID-19, especially if they don't feel safe with living while currently living with the abuser.
Erica, we do have a question in the chat box. I'm going to go ahead and ask you this question, Rocio. Do you have any cyber safety resources you can share?
We don't, I can definitely look them up, and if anybody's interested, we can definitely send those their way. But in terms of like just some cyber safety measures, always keep it in mind in terms of if you have an iPhone specifically, or even an Android phone, who are you sharing your location with? So making sure that you look at that to see if they're sharing your location, because that means that they're possibly tracking where you're at. So again, going into your settings on your iPhone and verifying, is there anybody sharing your information, sharing your location, taking a look at those things. But also on your iPhone, you're able to go ahead and put an SOS. So if you need to go ahead and call for help, there's a couple options that you can use it. You can either click on your, I believe on your volume down 5 times, and then it'll automatically call 911. Or if you click the volume down and the other button on the right, I forgot which one it was, it's called, but if you click those automatically, it'll give you the option to go ahead and swipe for you to call 911. So kind of looking at those things on your Android, making sure that all your email information is updated, that on your Google Maps, that are you sharing your location with anybody, on your, just kind of looking at those things. That way you can also verify the information that you have access to. So if the other party was the one that set up your phone, what information did that other party put on there? Are they able to go ahead and put their email and now they have access to all this information? And keeping in mind, specifically with the iPhone, if you have your iPhone connected to your Mac, they don't have to be together necessarily to go ahead and have your Mac have access to your messages. So making sure that you kind of are aware of those things to make sure that you're protected online as well. And this is possibly like a whole nother conversation as well, but we can definitely provide some resources. If anybody's interested, they can definitely call our hotline and again, speak with the legal advocate, and we can definitely kind of walk you through some safety tips for some cyber safety as well. And then I know that it's getting close to 3. So what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and also put up our hotline number so you can contact us. But Erica, do you want to go ahead and take it from here?
Yes, so hopefully we can add the slide at the end. It has our hotline number, how you can contact us. I also went ahead and added in the description, and we definitely appreciate you joining our webinar, and we hope you're taking care of yourself and staying safe. Thank you so much for joining. And then if you have any questions or any concerns, contact our hotline, or you can contact us directly. I'll add my email here in the bottom in the chat. So then if you want to send me an email, you can definitely do so. Yeah, thank you.